Hey, welcome to Shameless, Healing the Good Girl and the Slut Wound That Made Her. And I'll share that title again just so you show up in the wrong Zoom room and you're really confused as to why we're talking about all this stuff. So we're here to talk about the slut wound, which I've identified as something that is this collective wound that we have around women expressing sexual agency. And the good girl, which is the way that's like the polar opposite to the slut. So the good girl is that we'll go into a little bit more about who she is right now in the call today. But I just wanted to ground you here. Welcome. I'm so happy you're here. One thing I'll share with you is that I do ask for some engagement in the comments here and there. And so if you're watching this on the recording, which a lot of folks do, then what you can do is just kind of write down your answers in a journal or something like that. But if you're here live, which I love, then I want to have you engage in the chat. And that just helps this to become more of an embodied experience so that you're not just taking in a passive experience of learning. Because especially with sexuality, we do not need any more consumption, right? Like we're just filled with images and things that we can take in, but we're very rarely filled with things that we can actually give back. So I want to shift this and let's use the chat. And if you're on the recording and you're watching it on your own time, perfectly fine, by the way, then just jot down some notes. So what the comment box is for is I will ask questions at different times. You might want to just pop in there with like an emoji. That also helps me as the facilitator know that you're alive, know that you're getting it, and also just helps me to read the room and figure out kind of what's going on there. The comment box is also amazing for what we call frames. Frames are the collection of this, like a little snapshot of what you saw, what you noticed, what you felt, kind of what resonated with you with whatever it is that we were just talking about. So for instance, I'm in a frame like, oh my God, your dog's gotten so big, Kaylee. And I'm in a frame how cute he is. And that's an example of a frame. It's just like a little snapshot. So we're going to start off with some comment engagement and for folks watching the recording, write this down. We're going to do the game, put a finger down. Everyone's played this game at this point, right? Okay. So put a finger down. If you've ever been called a slut as an insult, put a finger down. If you've ever been called a slut as an insult, but you weren't really sure what you did to deserve that, put a finger down. If you've ever been called a slut as an insult, but you didn't regret doing whatever it was that you did. Put a finger down. This is a new one. If you've been called not slutty enough, put a finger down. If you've ever used the word slut as a compliment or a marker of identity. Okay, so just notice your fingers. Notice where you are on this list. The thing with this slut wound is that it doesn't escape any of us. Every single woman has had this experience of being called a slut on some level. So I gotta make my notes a little bigger because I am blind these days and I forgot to do that. And I will lose track. If I don't have notes, I am the kind of person who will just keep talking and talking and talking about stuff. And I don't want to do that necessarily. Okay, so what I want to remind you of is as we did this exercise, put the finger down, right? The fact that we can even have this conversation, the fact that I can even ask you these questions means a lot to as far as where we are as a culture around women's sexuality. I mean, even when I was like 14 and in my adolescence, I don't think I could have publicly asked these kinds of questions. I would have never even considered asking these kinds of questions. And that's not even, that's like 30 years ago, right? So think about your mother, think about your grandmother, think about the distance that we have come from that. We still have the shame. It's not perfect, it's not amazing, but the distance that we have from where we were is massive. And we have to honor that. And I want to ask you to remember this as you're going through this class today, just to really ground that truth in your body, because It's the slut wound is so deep with us. It's really hard sometimes for our bodies to understand that it's safer than it once was. It's not fully safe. Again, I want to make that clear, but it's safer than it once was. And so if your body gets activated, if you find yourself noticing something, then I just want to have you return to that memory, that recognition of how far we've come. So let's drop in. We're going to drop in, as I always like to do, with a story, because these stories, these, mythology and fairy tales, all these, allegories are really near and dear to my heart. Today, we're going to talk about Mary Magdalene. So you might know this name. In fact, let's test this chat thing. What do you know about Mary Magdalene? What do you know about her? Some of you might know things that are more of the old school things. Some might know more of the newer recent findings that have come out about her. But how do you think of her when you think of the name Mary Magdalene? Jesus' partner and lover, right? Yeah, that's one. Uh-huh. What else? What is it like? Let's name it. What is she accused of? Before all these truths have come out around who she was. Okay, thank you. Miriam, you named it. I know her for my Christian education as a woman who was a prostitute, but she repented. That is insanely, like, this is the point that we're going to make today, okay? I'm reading this too. Okay, two versions. We've got some great Christian historians here. She committed adultery and was spared by Jesus. Jesus is number two, is Jesus' twin flame who was spiritually powerful. Okay. So in for most of history, Mary Magdalene was known as a prostitute. This idea of she was a prostitute and she repented and Jesus saved her. This was the majority of how history has known her. And, if you actually read the Bible, there's no place in the Bible where it ever once says she was a prostitute, she committed adultery, she was a sinner and repented. It doesn't say that anywhere. Now, what happened was there was a Pope Gregory, and this was in 591 AD, so many years after. Pope Gregory read some of the scripts and he decided that there was this anonymous sinner who had repented, and that was Mary Magdalene. I don't know exactly what his line of thinking was, but this was also 591 AD. It wasn't necessarily the most advanced thinking as far as, women's sexuality goes. But he decided this. He named her a prostitute. And that just stuck. It just stuck. And the thing with it is that that stuck from 591 AD all the way into the late 1800s. In the late 1800s, from about, I think it was 1859, don't quote me on that date, late 1800s into the 1930s, all of these missing books from the Bible began to be discovered. And for those of you who don't know the history of how what we know as the Bible came to be, it was literally a decision where a bunch of men got in a room together and decided these books are going to be the Bible. These books are never going to be part of the Bible. So it wasn't as if this is something that what we know as the Bible is sort of it's missing some pages, and these pages were found. These pages, I want you to think about the coincidence, the synchronicity of these books that had gone missing that were found again. So some farmer in Egypt, and this happens multiple times with multiple people finding these things, okay? But here's one example. I think this was the Mary Magdalene, the book of Mary Magdalene particularly. Some farmer in Egypt's digging his land. He comes upon a vessel, clay vessel, and it's filled with these scrolls in a language that he can't really recognize. And he's like, meh, I think it might be worth something. So he brings it to market. And at market comes along a Bible scholar who happens to be able to read this language, this ancient language, looks at it, sees it, goes, oh my God, literally, and takes it, and it becomes reveals that these books were missing. These books were missing. So think about what it took for these missing books of the Bible to be hidden. Because the people who were doing the hiding, they kind of knew what they were doing. They knew what was at stake. They knew what was happening. They knew that the narrative was being transformed out of the truth that they knew. And so they painstakingly, in many cases, likely risked their lives to hide these books of the Bible. And what was the number one thing that came out of these books? Many things came out of these books. I'm not going to get into all of it. But one of the most important things that came out of it was a complete rewrite of Mary Magdalene's story. So now what's funny is that you'll get, if you go onto the internet, you'll get all sorts of stuff about Mary Magdalene, like these downloaded, books and things like that. But like it's a lot of it is just kind of like not based in fact. Okay. So like we're going to talk about the fact of it. Like we don't know if she carried Jesus as baby. Like we don't know if some of these things that that are said on these YouTube videos are true. We don't know that. What we know are things in the Bible. So I'm going to read something here. Two quotes from these missing books. One, surely the Savior knows her very well. That is why he loved her more than us. Surely the Savior knows her very well. Speaking about Mary Magdalene, that is why he loved her more than us. Second quote, Christ loved her more than all the disciples and used to kiss her often on the mouth. Does that sound like a repentant whore? Like and so here's the thing, okay? So these books come out, again, 1800s to 1930s. We begin to find all of these books. It took until 1969 for the church to officially redact the statement that Pope Gregory had made in 591. And yeah, the church redacted it, but as we all know, when we're called a slut, the damage is done. We can't just remove that label from us. There's very little that has to be done to prove that a woman is a slut besides just call her a slut. In fact, most of the proof is on I'm not a slut. Look at all of these good things that I did. And so it's interesting where you have these if you go into like the deep Bible scholars, you'll have people kind of defending Mary Magdalene now as a spiritual leader of her own right. And there is a real hesitance around naming her as potentially Jesus's partner. But if you think about this, most spiritual traditions will have, like let's ground this in the Vedic tradition, the Indian spiritual tradition, where it is one of the most intact spiritual traditions that exists. So it's kind of easy to point to. But there are these concepts of masculine and feminine in each godhead. So Shiva cannot exist without Parvati. They don't exist alone. They are a masculine and a feminine pole, and they're meant to work together. And so it makes perfect sense that if Jesus were to really be doing the kind of spiritual work that these books demonstrate that he was doing, he would need that other feminine pole. He would need someone as powerful in a female body. So Mary Magdalene, we're rewriting her history, and there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be corrected, but in people's minds. But yeah, it was redacted, but not until 1969. Because the thing is, it's like this slut wound. She has been labeled with the ultimate slut wound, and all of us who heard her story as girls took it to mean that if we have any form of sexual agency, because what is a prostitute? She's a sex worker who decides to use the resources that she has to make money, which is everybody's right to do. I mean, how different is that? The first time I ever met a sex worker, I was like 19, and it was a woman who had decided to become an escort because she graduated from university. And she came back and said, I realized that if I go get a job anywhere else, I'm basically selling my body. I'm selling my time. So I might as well have rich men take me out to dinner. and enjoy myself a little bit, right? So we learned, though, that that is the absolute worst thing that you could do. It's not just being a slut, it's like being a slut for money. So it means that you are run through, it means that you are no good, you are unmarriable. This is the message that the Mary Magdalene story, in its more original form, well, its Pope Gregory form, gave to us. And that word, the word slut, has so much power to it. There is no equivalent word for a man. Think about this. You can call a man an asshole. You can call a man a jerk. You can call him a dick. Nothing will prevent him from being invited to Christmas dinner. But a woman who is a slut, a woman who expresses her sexuality, stands to be completely outcast from everything that matters to her. This is no small thing. And in fact, I believe that a lot of times people know exactly what they're doing when they label a woman as a slut. They know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to take it down. They're trying to take us down. They're trying to show us that they know there's a weak spot here. There's this, I was trying to find the quote because I always like to find actual sources for quotes that I've heard before, and I could not find the source of this one. So I might even be bastardizing this quote. But it was a philosopher, it's a German philosopher, I know that much. And it was said that if you ever want to really hurt someone, you don't go after their flaws. You don't point out their flaws. You don't point out the things that they're bad at. If you really want to hurt someone, you will take them down with what is their most powerful aspect. So this points us to the reason why the slut wound is so big. I mean, I wonder, does anyone else ever wonder, like, why sexuality? Why do we have such an issue with women's sexuality above all things? Like, why not beauty? Why not our ability to make children? Why not our, compassion for the world? Like, why is it that our sexuality is the most targeted thing about a woman? I believe very firmly that we have tremendous amounts of power with our sexuality. It is feared, it is misunderstood, it is demonized. And I'll put it to you this way, like, if you think about it, your most powerful man, like, think about your most powerful man that you could possibly think of. What can take him down? It's not going to be another man, maybe, like on some level. Here's my cat. She thinks we're talking about her. It's he, like, another powerful man might be able to come in and debate him or, make more money than him. But what can really take a man down more than anything else is a seductive woman. So think about the Cleopatra story, right? So Cleopatra and Julius Caesar, and everyone thought that Julius Caesar was being bewitched by Cleopatra, that she had seduced him somehow. Rather than, like, Cleopatra was just probably an incredibly intelligent, and we knew that she was very dynamic, and who wouldn't fall for that, right? But Julius Caesar and Mark Antony both left a lot of their duties behind to be with a woman that powerful. Essentially, to get in bed with a woman who has that kind of power is a chance, like to have that chance, a man would give up quite a bit. And we've seen this time and time again. So, quick tip, if you ever want to get your partner, if you're with a man and you ever want to get your partner to just ease up something, it's probably not going to come from you saying, hey, dude, like, maybe you should chill. It's going to come from you perhaps turning on a little seduction. Think about that kind of power. So, how is this related to the good girl? We're going to talk about what the good girl is. The good girl is the response to the slut wound. The good girl is that boomerang response that says, I don't want to be like her. I don't want to be this woman who is outcast and doesn't adhere to the rules of society, right? I don't want to be this woman who opens her legs as she pleases. I don't want to be a woman who's for her own pleasure. And so the good girl is created in response. The good girl is essentially, we can think about her as the people pleaser extreme. She is the one who has no opinions. She has no connection to her own desires. She doesn't do what she wants to do. She does what other people want her to do. And this is a trap. She thinks it's going to be her salvation. She thinks that if she only just does what they want her to do, she will become free. She will get the keys to the kingdom. And it's not true. Because what happens is that she ends up losing her sense of self. By not having a connection to who she is and what she really wants, she ends up becoming a void. She ends up becoming a burden. She doesn't like herself. She doesn't, nobody really likes, like, have you ever noticed if there's a woman who gives off kind of mixed signals, like it's like this feeling of like, do you really know what you want? You know? And it's this sense that you don't like her. And a lot of times it's because there are mixed signals, energetically speaking, right? It's like she may not even know that what she wants is completely opposite from what she's saying she wants. And it makes us, on the animal level, it makes us uncomfortable. We may not be able to name it, but it's there. And there's something that's like your nervous system is giving a different response than what your voice is saying. We don't we think that we hear things with words. We think that we listen to the words that people are saying and we take that in, but actually what we're doing is we're listening to people's bodies. And so when the good girl is signaling and she's saying the words, yes, and her body's signaling, no fucking way, we read that as an incongruence and it feels uncomfortable for us. So the good girl, if you know anything about the nervous system, I'm going to give you a really quick outline of it, okay? So there are four responses when a body feels unsafe in the nervous system. There are four responses. We know fight or flight. Most people have heard of that before. What we may not be as familiar with is the freeze response, which is that response where your voice gets caught in your throat and you can't really say anything and you can't act in your own benefit. And then there's also the fawn response. The fawn response is a little bit different. It's a response to feeling unsafe, but what it is, it's looking around and it's trying to figure out what will keep me from moving into further unsafety. What will keep me essentially from dying, whether it's an identity death or a physical death, right? And so women, because I'm not going to get into the because really, I have a lot of theories on why we're so able to drop into that fawn response. But we're conditioned to go to fawn. We're conditioned to people please. And it's killing us, especially in bed, especially in bed. You have any idea how many women come to me and they say, I don't know how to ask for what I want? Like just basic stuff. Like, I don't know how to ask for, can you move to the left? And it sounds like if you were sitting with somebody and they had their leg like mushed on you, it's a lot easier to imagine being like, hey, would you mind moving that leg over? But if somebody's touching your pussy and they're touching it in a way that feels uncomfortable, that feels like it hurts you, it is terrifying for most women to even begin to imagine asking. Most of us have been taught, just endure it, it will go away. Eventually it will, but you're missing out on a lot if that's your primary way of moving through sex. You're missing a lot. A couple of things that you might look for if you want to know when the good girl is showing up. talked about enduring the discomfort, just kind of like gritting your teeth and saying, like, I'm going to get through this. It's going to, like, how long could it possibly last? Right? Like, he'll come eventually, right? So pretending to like things that, like, certain acts that you don't actually like how many women are like, well, like, I mean, I can deal with anal, like, it's fine, right? But it's like not your favorite thing ever, and you do it because it's his thing, right? That is also a good girl stuff, rather than being like, hey, like, I need extra lube. If you're gonna do this, it has to have this and this and this in place, right? It might also look like using sex to gain approval. Sleeping with someone in the hopes that they will pick you, right? Like, this does happen a lot. I have a candle back here, and my cat is in the way, and I'm terrified of her tail getting stuck there. So a lot of women will complain if they have sex with someone and then they had an expectation of something that was coming, like a relationship that was coming, and they're like, well, he never called me afterwards. Okay, what was the agreement? What was the agreement? Were you having sex to gain a relationship when you had that expectation but your partner didn't? You're playing the good girl here. You're going along with what they want you to go along with, but it's not necessarily what you want. If you want a relationship, ask for a relationship. And I'm not going to get into morality around how many dates you should take until you have sex with someone. I think that's a completely ridiculous conversation to have. Just say you want a relationship or don't. You can also just enjoy sex without having a relationship. That is also a possibility. It can also look like avoiding asking for what you want in bed because you don't want to appear like you have too many demands. This is classic good girl behavior, this fear of being too demanding. And a lot of this comes from, there have been thousands of years where women have been traded like property. It was, I think I don't remember the year exactly, but I want to say it's been 50 years since a woman was able to open up her own mortgage. I think is what the stat, I just read this the other day and I was kind of floored by that. I mean, like my mom's generation. My mom couldn't sign for a mortgage without a man, right? This isn't that long ago. And so before that, we didn't have economic independence. We couldn't just go out and get a job the way that we can do now. We relied on the men in our lives, our fathers first, and then to our husbands. We relied on them for our survival and for our children's survival. The good girl response comes from love and a desire for survival. The last thing I want you to do here with this information is to go and like shame yourself for having a bunch of good girl responses. Where I want you to really sit with is that your grandmothers, their grandmothers, everyone passed this on to each other because they wanted you to survive. They wanted you to live. And if living meant you had to live with these rules, you had to shut your mouth, then that's what it took. But right now, these rules are no longer applying. The narrative is changing. The narrative is changing. So I want you just to think about times when your good girl has shown up. And if you want to just drop an emoji in there that says, like, into the chat that says, like, I remember this, or a memory. The good girl shows up here. The good girl, like, I played here. I'll tell you the story while you're thinking about the good girl. I had a job before I was doing intimacy coaching work many years ago. I used to do communications work and I worked for a nonprofit, and it was this very intense political organization. I was the last one standing at some point after like 5 years of working there. And they promoted me, or they pushed me into taking a job that was something I didn't want to do. It was like being the executive director for this organization. I didn't like politics. It didn't feel good to me. And I found myself in rooms all the time where I had to be the good girl. Like, I have a really hard time making a face that is neutral when I think that somebody is giving me bullshit. But I remember having this moment where somebody took a photo of me at a party and some political fundraiser. I had to go to these all the time. And you have to be dressed up and you have to like talk to all the people who, like you're just like planning coups against. And there was a picture of me. And I remember thinking, that's not my real smile. That's not how I actually smile. I was fawning to everybody in that room because I had no fucking clue what I was doing. I was pushed into the job. I was the good girl who I was like, you know what? They talked me up and they said, "You're doing such a great job. You should do this," right? And so that's how it plays out in the workforce. Think about all of the times it's played out in the bedroom, in relationships. And all of this stems from all of this good girl behavior stems from us not wanting to be labeled a slut, not wanting to ask for what we wanted, right? I went through sex in a past relationship for years. That was not what I wanted. It was too soft. It was too easy. It was a lovely form of sex, but it wasn't what I liked. And I just endured it because I loved my partner and I didn't know how to ask for what I wanted. I just endured it. Yeah, good girl behavior in marriage. Okay, bam. Marriageable women, good girls are considered marriageable. So, too many demands. I like to give this analogy like if women were passed down as property, if you're buying a house, you don't want a leaky roof. You're buying a car, you don't want like an alternator that is about to break. You don't want something that has too many needs, right? And so if you end up being this bad girl who has a lot of needs, who's very bossy, that word that's always thrown at women, who's very, demanding, you're not going to be chosen. It's going to be really hard for your father to pass you up. So you better shut the fuck up. And you better give him your body so that he will give you your food. You see how that exchange works. And that exchange has blown up. The narrative is breaking. I want to point out how easy it was for Pope Gregory to just slap this narrative out there. Like he just read the text and was like, maybe this is what happened. Narratives are that easy. Cultural narratives define everything that we know to be true. Read some anthropology research, do some National Geographic searching. You're going to see a lot of different examples about how sexuality shows up. You're going to see a lot of different examples, especially, I mean, you can even look in different parts of the country. I'm American by birth. And so I think about like the difference in sexual expression in New York City, where it's very compartmentalized. Like you would have your hookup friends, like you'd have people that you like compartmentalize and you just go and like have sex and like that's a thing, right? And you don't necessarily like need those relationships in the typical way. It's very compartmentalized. It's very sexual, but it's compartmentalized. Doesn't interfere with work. Doesn't interfere with your other friends. So that's one way. But I grew up in the Midwest, and in the Midwest, it was like, you were kind of expected, like if you were gonna have sex with someone, that had to mean you were in a relationship. And there was like when I was a teenager, the first person I had intercourse with, I was 16, 17, something like that. And I remember thinking, okay, well, we've been together for almost a year. So therefore, it's appropriate. It's not too soon. Because if I have sex too soon with someone, I'm a slut. And then I'm not marriageable. You see? Okay. I want to go back to this point that I made about the good girl coming from a place of love. It's really important. I want to ground us in this because we're going to go into a practice in a minute. And I want to make it really clear. It's only when the good girl is not integrated that she becomes dangerous to us. It's only when she is shunned that she becomes dangerous to us. All of us have the good girl. All of us have the slut too, by the way. All of us have the good girl and the slut, and they are only dangerous to us when they're not integrated. When the good girl is not integrated in particular, she makes us think that we're totally powerless. She makes us think that we never had a voice. She makes us think that we have to outsource all of our power to the men in our lives. She's not an enemy if we integrate her. She was invented to save our lives. And when we recognize this, we integrate her. We welcome her into this fabric of expression. We're going to go into a short practice. And this practice is involving persona play. I love persona play for one of the reasons that is because it's fun and it's playful. And one of the stats that I can always commit to memory is this, that if we want to change a behavior, it takes between 200 and 400 repetitions for us to create a new neural pathway that makes that behavior into something that is ongoing, right? So if we want to start flossing every night and we want to floss after we brush our teeth, so it's going to take us like about a year, maybe more, to just make it like ingrained so that it's flossing every night. It's a habit. But if we infuse play into whatever behavior that we want to bring in, we infuse playfulness and, the persona play being part of this, it takes between 10 and 20 repetitions. So we're talking about a couple of weeks to make a change. This is neuroscience. This is neuroscience. And the reason why children are so flexible and malleable has very much to do with this. So what this is going to look like, the persona play that we're going to do, is we're going to drop deeply into both extremes of the good girl and the slut. We're going to have some music that's going to guide us. And what I want to invite you to do is to allow yourself to go to the most extreme example of that. So the way you sit, the way you move, the way you stare at yourself in the screen, all of this is a place for you to kind of try on behaviors and attitudes and ways of being. And I want you to imagine we're in the place of imaginal reality, of magical reality. I want you to imagine that in this place of this persona play, there is full permission for you to be exactly as extreme as you want in either place. And there's also no consequences. Nothing will happen to you if you are expressing yourself within the context of this container. I can't guarantee what will happen outside of this container because not everyone's ready for your, slut. Not everyone's ready for your good girl. But in the context of this container, there will be no consequences. And thus, you have full permission. Okay. I'm going to play a song. My favorite bad girl, Billie Eilish. I want you just to first begin. We're going to begin with the good girl. How's that volume? You still hear me speaking? Give me a thumbs up. Great. Just begin to find that good girl within you. How does she sit? How does she stand? How does her jaw feel? What are her hands doing? How does her breathing show up? What do her eyes do? Eyes closed, round. Are they looking up? Are they looking down? There's no right answer to this, by the way. You're just feeling it. I'm going to show a little bit more of my girl.
Like it like, say I like it like that, like it like that.
See how small she can get.
Like it like, say I like it like that, like it like that.
I'm afraid of losing everything that she has. She is.
Don't you know too much already? I'll only hurt you if you
Notice your posture. What does your spine want to do here?
call me friend.
fake her smiles. She fake her orgasms. Wants her partners to feel successful. How does she show up in your body? And then as she's showing up in your body, feel how deep that desire is. Feel how pure that is, how innocent that is. All you want to do is please and make people happy.
Once we've both said our goodbye,
Your moments with her.
let's just let it go. Let me let you go.
Feel how lonely she is.
Quiet when I'm coming.
How much untapped potential in the good girl. Fucking tired she is.
Like it like, say I like it like that.
But ultimately how much she cares. How much she wants for her community, for her people.
I could lie, say I like it like
She's willing to give up
that, like it
everything
like
so that others can have. Okay, we're going to move into, I'm going to pause this for a moment and just have you notice, come back to neutral, maybe shake your body out a little bit. Just notice. You don't have to judge or name or try to change anything. Just notice how that feels in your body. Like I personally want to just kind of throw up. I just want to like scream. There's like this feeling in me, a visceral response to that. We're going to go into the next song, which is yeah, I see I cried a lot. Yeah. This is going to be quite a different expression. This is going to be your slut. And I've chosen Peaches. If you guys know Peaches, she's an amazing artist. Unabashedly fucking slutty, and she's amazing for it. So this is a song called Fuck the Pain Away. And so as it begins, just begin to notice what it feels like to locate your inner slut. Go to the extreme opposite of the good girl. What motivates your inner slut? What values does she hold? How does she want to take up space? Because I bet she takes up a lot more
Sucking on my
space.
titties like you wanted me, calling me all the time like Blondie. Check out my Chrissy behind, it's fine all of the time, like sex on the beaches. What else is in the teachers?
How does she seduce?
Huh, what?
How does she enjoy her own body? I welcome you to find a way to gaze at your own reflection as it's
like you
in Zoom
wanted me,
screen.
calling me all the time like Blondie. Check out my Chrissy behind, it's fine all over
Slut
the
is so
time.
pleased
What
with
else is in the teachers of peaches?
all about her pleasure.
Like sex on the beaches. What? Right. What?
She's almost,
What?
other word that's really bad for women to be, which is greedy. How bad you can be with her. Naughty she can be. You're circling your hip, tracing your body, posing as if everybody's attention should be on you.
School, cause it's the best. IUD, SIS, stay in school, cause it's the best. IUD, SIS, stay in school, cause it's the best. Sucking on my titties like you wanted me, calling me all the time like Blondie. Check out my Chrissy behind, it's fine all of the time, like sex on the beaches. What else is in the teachers of peaches? Huh? What? Fuck the pain pain
If she
away.
moved, if she had
Fuck
no
the pain
consequences
away.
for her behavior,
Fuck the
if
pain
there was
away.
no
Fuck
punishment,
the pain away.
then
Fuck
slutty
the
as she
pain
may be.
away. Fuck the pain 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 away.
All right, we're gonna just pause that. We can go forever with Peaches. We're going to do an integration one now. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring these two together. And I want you to focus on moving from the slut to the good girl, back and forth, back and forth. And here we're going to focus on the road in between. So I'm going to play another song. Get my volume back up. We're going to start with being in the good girl. Again, coy, without desire, unsure, uncertain. And then move into the slut. Very sure of herself. Back into good girl. Hold here, and then move back into the slut and hold there. Find a pose. And then begin to notice as you're continuing to move in between these two states of being. Can you slow down the road in between them? Notice what the road feels like in between that good girl who cares so much. That slut who doesn't give a fuck. Sorry. What's the relationship between these two? Is it okay to care? Is it okay to care what other people think? Is it okay to not give a fuck what other people think? Is it okay to want to hide, to want to never be seen? Is it okay to be the center of attention? You need to move in between this. Find that place, find that bridge in between these two. They're not as separate as you think. And to bring your movements to a close. And to find, maybe close your eyes, hand in your heart, hand in your pelvis. Maybe there's some gentle swaying here as you're integrating these two. Maybe you're doing some gentle hip circles. Nothing too slutty, but just something that finds some movement where you can integrate this experience. Just noticing whatever it is that you notice, noticing what's here for you. It is okay to want to be gazed at, to be admired. It is okay to want to hide. It is okay to do whatever the fuck you want to do, to be all about you. And it is okay to be all about the community that you're in, the culture that you're in. Both of these are true for us. Just take a moment, and if you want to share in the chat or in your journal, What resonated? Which one felt easier? Which one felt uncomfortable? Which one felt like, oh, here's some work. Here's some more work that I have to do. If you want to share anything in the chat, even just an emoji to tell me how you're feeling, how that was for you. What was beautiful about it? Can you tell me? The more specific, when we frame things, the more specific that we are, the more we will take away from an experience. The in between space. Yeah. Okay. So, what did you find there? Can you frame that a little bit more? Ah, okay. Here's a good one. I was not afraid. I was not aware that in between can feel so fun. I can't remember being a time when I felt like a good girl. When it felt like feeling like a good girl felt fun. Yeah. I don't want us to shun the good girl. I don't want us to make her another thing that we have to reject about ourselves. I want us to recognize that she serves a purpose. We are social creatures. We need the world around us. We need each other for our sense of belonging and food and safety and security. Yeah. There's a tenderness toward her. Yeah. Great. That's a beautiful frame. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I encourage you to just pick 3 songs, pick a song that makes you feel like a good girl, pick a song that makes you feel like a total slut, and pick something that's kind of neutral in between. I went with Teardrop Massive Attack. I love that song. And it just is always like kind of this beautiful space in between. And do this practice on your own. Do it in front of a mirror. It's very powerful, very powerful. Just notice what you notice. That's it. Pendulating feels so right. Integrating both instead of running from one to another. Exactly. Exactly. We contain multitudes, each of us. Those multitudes include the good girl, they include the slut. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who we think we are. All of these exist and so much more. So I want to shift into what's coming next. So now that you've had this taste of what it feels like to touch the whole spectrum of your feminine erotic power. But a taste is just a taste. If you really want to embody this expanded range, you have to do ongoing work. And this course, this free one that I'm doing, is a lead-in to my first live course that I run in 3 years. I've done stuff with other people. I've done pre-recorded courses. All of those are great and fun. But this is the first one that I'm doing that has been in my mind for about a year. And it's called Mirror Mirror, Unspelling the Feminine Erotic. And this is about helping you go further into what we experience today, go further into a deeper, broader sexual expression that is completely your own. The work of Mirror Mirror is centered around 4 fairy tales. And I know that a lot of people, when I talk about fairy tales, they're like, okay, cool. Those stories I was told as a little kid. And what I want to share with you is that these stories are rich with allegory, just like mythology. Fairy tales are meant to instill the listener with something. They're not just entertainment. And as we go into the course, we're going to go into Red Riding Hood, we're going to go into Cinderella, into Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty, into these 4 stories that we might know the Disneyfied versions of these, the ones that Disney told us, like, oh, it's about the prince waking us out, making us come awake with a kiss. And I want to tell you that that is not the original story, right? So what Disney did with these was specific. So when I talk about the idea of narrative being malleable and something that we can mess with ourselves, this is what I'm saying. Disney took a story that told a lot about what we were supposed to learn, how we were supposed to teach our children, our young girls and our young boys in cases, about sexuality. couched it. We couched it into this story that kind of seems like a child story. And then Disney took that and like ran with it. And they were like, here's a cultural narrative that we would like to share. They know how much power these stories hold. And if you don't believe me, think about like there are all of the major movie studios. There are certain films that they will say greenlight and certain films that they will not greenlight. And they also have psychology, they have focus groups. This is not unintentional. There is a narrative that is out there. I'm not saying that there is a conspiracy where, we're being told certain things and being denied other things, but I'm also not saying that there's not. I don't know. But what I do know is that when we look at the original fairy tales, there is stuff there that we have to begin to unpack. Vital information about what our great grandmothers wanted us to know about our sexual agency, things to look out for, things to run for and go after. So I want to invite you, if you feel called to go deeper into a bigger form of your sexual expression, into a broader, richer form of your sexual expression, then I want to invite you to come and join Mirror Mirror this fall. We're going to start November 13th, and we go 5 weeks. These are all live classes. I am deciding to do this like a live human being because I feel like the pre-recorded stuff is great, and I miss teaching live. I miss seeing faces in classrooms. I miss having conversations with people. And I can only get that if I teach live. And I find that the transmission is a lot stronger that way too. There's an early bird deal. It's on till Friday. And I'm also going to give the first 3 women who email me, and I'm going to drop my email into the chat. The first 3 women who email me, I'm going to give you an extra $30 off. And it's for those of you who are in the recording, Sonia, Sonja, at yourbodystory.com. And here are details. So you can get more information, and I will drop this link in the recording email, but it's yourbodystory.com/mirror-mirror. So that's my spiel for Mirror Mirror. And no matter what you take from today, if you continue on with Mirror Mirror or not, if you feel called, I would love you to be there. If you don't feel called, it's not the right time for you, also fine. But what I want you to take from today is this notion that everything that we do, every narrative that comes to us on some level has a seed of love within it. Even, I would say, Pope Gregory's assumption of Mary Magdalene's career choice. On some level, perhaps, there was some love that this came from. A love of recognition that redemption is possible. That is a story that's universally true. Redemption is possible. What are we redeeming from? That's another story. But as a reminder that redemption is something that we can always go after, which is one of the things within Christianity that's really beautiful. It's a really beautiful teaching that we are always able to find forgiveness. So I want to ask you to find forgiveness of your slut, find forgiveness of your good girl, find forgiveness of everyone who ever called you a slut, find forgiveness of anyone who ever good girled you to death, and move toward the wholeness, move toward that full embodied expression that includes all the pain and it includes all of the victories. And mostly I just want to thank you. So I want to thank you for trusting me to come here, for trusting yourself. Like I recognize that clicking on a link that says the word slut in it is a big risk. Even still, even though it is a lot better than it used to be, this is still a risk. And I want to thank you. It's not a small thing. And just to close, I want you can close your eyes for a minute. And I want you to imagine one of your female ancestors, so your ancestress, Can be your mother, your grandmother, great grandmother. Imagine her standing behind you. See how limited her sexual expression was, almost laughably so. See how little room she had to want, to move toward pleasure. She may not have even ever known what sexual pleasure was. And just also see the way that she is cheering you on, even as much as you might struggle. She sees you, and she sees how far you've come in her name. Hand on your heart. Give her a good thank you. In whatever form you want to thank her, you can just imagine the words thank you moving to her. Maybe you receive something in return. One more big breath in. And then we're going to release with an audible sigh. Ah. Thank you so much for showing up today.